George R.R. Martin has built a wonderful universe with his A Song of Ice and Fire books, depicting giants, dragons, and other supernatural beings in a crooked world of humans. Martin still has a lot of writings in store for us. He recently unveiled his new writing, The Ice Dragon, which will be animated by Warner Brothers. What should we anticipate from The Ice Dragon, and which tales does it tell? Let's find out. To begin, let's look at an overview of the subject. George R.R. Martin's universe came to life spectacularly with the Game of Thrones series, and it now has a slew of projects spinning out of it as we wait for House of the Dragon Season 2 and confirmation on the Jon Snow spin-off series. However, the author's other writings are also being brought to life. Martin announced that Warner Brothers Animation is adapting his book The Ice Dragon into an animated film in a recent interview with Penguin Random House while promoting his new book The Rise of the Dragon, an illustrated history of the Targaryen dynasty. Some of you may be aware that I have written works that are not related to Westeros or that narrative, and one of them, The Ice Dragon, is a short story about a dragon, an ice dragon that I wrote back in 1978, Martin stated when discussing the new project. Alicia Austin illustrated the author's fantasy tale, The Ice Dragon, which was initially published in the 1980s. Moving on, what can we expect from the Ice Dragon movie coming from Warner Brothers? The film follows Adara, a winter infant born during the hardest freeze anyone can fathom. At an early age, she touches and subsequently rides an ice dragon, a feared and legendary beast. Adara had felt a connection with the exquisite being ever since. Years later, the battle comes to her land in the form of dragons from the north, which swoop down on her farm and assault her family. The tiny girl then decides to finish the conflict herself with the help of the ice dragon. Aside from the Game of Thrones realm, the writer said that Warner Brothers is now bringing the ice dragon to life in an animated version. As I said, it's only a short narrative. It's a children's narrative, but we're planning to make it into a film, he stated. Warner Brothers Animation has purchased the rights to it, and we're planning to grow it to a completely animated film, a theatrical film we hope, to be released in a motion picture palace near you, said the company. Fans saw an ice dragon come to life in the final season of the original Game of Thrones series, when the Night King was able to ride one of Daenerys' dragons into the climactic battle. However, a deviation from his hit series The Ice Dragon will be animated, making it much more intriguing to viewers. Martin also mentioned that the screenplay would be written by David Anthony Durham, who will be a part of the project. Following that, George R.R. Martin's exciting update for Game of Thrones fans when heading to winter. It has been 11 years since the last novel in George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire series, and some fans are concerned that the author has given up entirely. The first 5 volumes in the series were released quickly, but fans have had to wait more than a decade for the next installment. The books served as the inspiration for the phenomenally successful HBO show Game of Thrones. However, while the show ended in 2019, the book series has yet to be completed. Martin had indicated that the next book, The Winds of Winter, is nearly finished. To be precise, I'm around 75% finished. The announcement came during a live stream with his publisher, Penguin Random House. I suppose I'm about 3/4 of the way through, Martin pondered, but it's not finished yet, so I'll have to keep working on it. Next up, trust issues. Martin's longtime fans should take the news with a grain of salt. He's repeatedly promised that the books would be out soon, and his writer's block has become a running gag. The first 5 books in the series were released in 1996, 1999, 2000, 2005, and 2011. But since HBO picked up the story and the first episode of Game of Thrones aired in 2011, Martin has been reluctant to call it quits. When he was an executive producer of the show's earlier seasons and an occasional writer and creative consultant, his focus began to wane. Then he began Fire and Blood, a novel about the origins of the Targaryen dynasty that HBO recently adapted for the hugely popular House of the Dragon series. He had hoped to finish the final 2 books in the series, The Winds of Winter and A Dream of Spring, before HBO caught up with him. However, HBO surpassed the source material with the 6th season of Game of Thrones in 2016. Showrunners David Benioff and D.B. Weiss were then forced to work without the fleshed-out narrative for the rest of the season, instead relying on rough plot points provided by Martin. Moving on, Permission to Imprison Me. Martin made a bold pledge 3 years later on his Not a Blog website in 2019. But I tell you this, if I don't have The Winds of Winter in hand when I arrive in New Zealand for Worldcon, he wrote, you have my formal written permission to imprison me in a small cabin on White Island, overlooking that lake of sulfuric acid, until I'm done. However, Martin Martin had once again exceeded his expectations. Martin provided many updates in the following months, stating that he had completed a chapter here and there. The novel has yet to be published. Following that, not dead yet, Martin made the announcement 2 months after swearing off giving updates on his writing progress because he was tired of disappointing fans and getting people upset with him. "I'm making progress," he told Vanity Fair in August, "but I've given up on predicting the end. Every time I try, I fail, and everyone gets mad at me, which makes no sense. It'll be finished when it's finished." Fans' frustration is combined with worries about Martin's health. Martin was 48 years old when the first book in the series, A Game of Thrones, was published in 1996. Now that Martin is 74, fans have speculated what would happen if he died before the final 2 books were published. Will the draft manuscripts be released while he is away, or will fans be left wondering what happened to their favorite characters? Martin addressed fan speculation, calling it grisly. "I find it a little grisly that people are speculating online about what will happen to the rest of the books when I die," he said. "I prefer not to speculate on that. I don't believe I'm on the verge of dying." Next up, worth the wait. Although Martin is disappointed that the books aren't available yet, they sound like they'll be worth the wait. A Dance of Dragons is the longest A Song of Ice and Fire book, with 73 chapters and 1,056 pages. Martin predicts that the winter winds will be stronger. "I've mentioned it before, it's a big book. It's a difficult book. It's going to be a bigger book than any of the previous volumes in the series," he predicted. The 2 major books in this series are Dance with Dragons and Storm of Swords. Both had around 1,500 manuscript pages. "I believe this one will be longer than that by the time I finish it." While they wait for Martin to arrive, HBO has enough to offer Game of Thrones fans. Based on Martin's Fire and Blood, House of the Dragon has been renewed for a 2nd season by HBO. The show has been a big success, with the season 1 finale attracting 9.1 million live viewers in the United States, the most for a finale since Game of Thrones ended in 2019. Finally, more spin-offs. Due to the show's enormous popularity, Martin recently announced that HBO has placed an order for a spin-off prequel about Lord Corlys, the head of House Valyrian. In the show, Steve Toussaint plays the role of Lord Corlys. In addition, it has been announced that Kit Harington will shortly resume his role as Jon Snow, and that a sequel series centered on the fan-favorite figure is now in the works. According to rumors, the series will focus on Snow's life after he was banished from Westeros and moved to the land beyond the Wall. The tale of Robert Baratheon's revolt and how the king came to sit on the Iron Throne will be told in a Game of Thrones play that is now in development outside of HBO. The play will recount how the king came to reign on the Iron Throne. The announcements continue after that point. Martin has also published a new illustrated book named The Rise of the Dragon. This book is about the history of the Targaryen dynasty, and Martin wrote it. The book has a total of 180 pictures, which relate to the tale of Aegon the Conqueror, Maegor the Cruel, Jaehaerys the Conciliator, and the Dance of Dragons. What are your thoughts on our video? What about George's new film, The Ice Dragon? Do you think it will meet the fans' expectations? Please let us know in the comment section. Well, that marks the end of our video for today. We hope you enjoyed it. On your way out, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching.